Hello, everyone, and welcome to the City Stage and Friends podcast, the all-new podcast from City Stage Studios. I am Victor Johansson.
The Maiden Voyage.
The Maiden Voyage. I'm here with Josiah Sjostrom, who is one of the owners. Sjostrom. It changes every time I say it. Who is
We've just met.
Yes. He's one of the owners of City Stage Studios. He's also a Gaffer in the Rockford and Chicago area. Joe, good to sit down with you in the new podcast setup. And the beauty of this thing is not only where we're hosting the City Stage and Friends podcast in this space, but this space is also available to you, the public, for rent. So, Joe, I wanted to talk about a little bit of the reason behind why you decided to give City Stage a podcast booth and kind of where you want to take it and who it's meant for.
The City Stage and Friends podcast is more of a byproduct of having this booth here than the intention of building it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. So we thought that a video podcast booth made sense to have here at the studio with all the other things we have going on, supporting creative professionals. There's the main stage for daily rentals, the photo studio in the back. There's offices for creative professionals and equipment rentals, and everything centered around kind of like that visual creatives sort of realm.
Yeah.
And video podcast specifically being such a popular medium today, we thought it would just it was worth the space it takes up here to put this booth in. So and the purpose behind it was to give another resource to creative professionals to be able to promote whatever they're doing, use it as like an additional value to their people that they're marketing or what have you. So it's here, and the idea is that other people can take advantage of it for whatever they need to engineer their podcast for. Yeah.
And the beauty of the space is that all the heavy lifting has been done, as you can see. And you don't have to set up cameras. You don't have to set up lights. You don't have to set up all the engineering section. We have all that figured out. And the goal was to make this as easy and simple for people just to be able to come in, sit down, and hit record and basically have their conversation without being bothered by all the technical aspects of having a podcast, and especially not only for creatives and podcasters, but I think also for businesses who don't want to even put in the time to be able to do that, but still want to have a voice on social media or, LinkedIn. Well, it's part of social media, YouTube channel, whatever it is, that they can have longer form content, but then cut it down into shorter form, 30s and minute long things. They can sit down here for, half hour, an hour, and be able to record a lot of content in just a short.
I think that's where a lot of the value comes from for businesses specifically. Yeah. Obviously, it's important to get kind of regular content out there to engage with your clients, your patrons, your buyers, whatever they might be, and it's a pretty cost effective way to have quality content out there that people engage with. So there's the idea of like a long form podcast, and people do listen to those, and a certain type of people listen to those that are engaged with whatever it is you do. But I think it's cutting snippets out of that, and I'm sure you've all seen it, kind of cut into like a reel and captioned on social media, and you're scrolling past and someone's talking about something you're interested in, and you engage with that. So it's a way for you to come in without having a whole lot of production around it, I guess. Sit down, talk shop with your people, and then you can hand that off to either the engineer if they're cutting stuff for you, or if you have like an in-house team that does that. Yeah, gives you a lot of content.
I think it's such a great way to be able to connect with your customers, with your audience as a business or as a creative as well. People want to be able to know the people that they're buying from, and what better way to not only hear but also see the people you're buying from on a podcast and talk about the things that are relevant to those customers and that particular business. So I'm really excited to see where this goes on both the business level and the creative level. The people that come in here. The beauty of the space is that we've designed it. This is kind of our baseline. This is setup number one for this podcast, but we've designed it so it's going to be customizable. This isn't going to be something where 5 businesses are using the same backdrop and you just know it's shot here at City Stage Studios. No, we want you to be able to have the opportunity to make it your own, to customize it, so that way, you have your own flavor and your own brand attached to your podcast.
Right, an extension of your brand, so it looks like it's
beautifully
your podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So the podcast is a new, exciting addition. We've been working on this for 3 months or so. This is just one of those additions that City Stage Studios has completed over the last year. I wanted to take a step back and just talk about the
Can
studio
I clarify
itself
a little bit more before we move on?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Kind of operationally, how we hope that this will work.
Yeah.
I already mentioned, we didn't build this space to host our own podcast, despite that's what we're doing today.
Yeah.
But it's really more. I guess I see it as a few different ways that people can utilize it. There can be the business, people who just want to come in here, sit down, talk shop with their people, and have a completely hands-off approach where it's all engineered for them and reels are cut or whatever they need done. That's all taken care of. So that's one side of it. But we also really want to support people who engineer and produce podcasts. So whether they have a podcast themselves that they run, that's their podcast, and they have their own engineer, would love to support that. Or if you're someone who's engineering other people's podcasts, those are the people we're trying to support here.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can come in. You don't have to do the whole setup and the takedown and the configuration every time. It's here. It's ready to go. It's not a lot of prep time. You just turn things on. You're kind of ready to go. You can, book a number of clients back to back or whatever it is. However you approach that. That's kind of the idea.
Yeah. No, that's a good distinction. Very good distinction. So I want to jump back a little bit and just talk about City Stage as a whole. This has been something that you've been putting together, working, building, literally, physically, managing for the last 3 years. And can you just, the people pop in and, they rent gear, so they see the space here and there. Or if somebody's never seen the space, who's in Chicago maybe, can you just tell me about the process, where you started with City Stage, building it, and then also where you're at now and some of the things that you offer here?
So the actual build process, what we've done to the place?
Because I think not many people, some people follow you, I'm sure, on Instagram and have seen kind of the journey that you've went through building this place. But it truly, as we look back over the last 2.5, 3 years, it's amazing what has been happening here and what the place looks like from then to now. So
when we bought the place, it was just it was a block of offices attached to multiple warehouses, kind of all under one roof. Actually, 3 different roofs, but all connected. All connected together at one facility, and it was very dated, very it was just a mechanical contractor's headquarters. So not at all what it is today. So it took a lot to get from that point to what it is today, and we had kind of a phased approach to it. We first worked on the offices, got those updated, and the offices are specifically for creative professionals. It's kind of like a co-working environment in a way, or it's just this dedicated offices and an open co-working space that creative professionals specifically can come and operate their business out of, because as most of us know, in the freelance world, if we're not doing that, we're probably sitting at home in a home office, which is something I did for probably 7 years. So I get it, and that's that aspect of it. Then we moved on into the. I'm signifying. I'm signaling this direction because in the orientation of the building, that's where it is. We moved on into the sound stage, which is essentially a rent by the day film studio.
Yeah.
And that was one of the bigger parts of the project because we actually raised the roof on that part of the facility 7 feet higher. So we concrete block building, tore off the roof, put it in the parking lot, you built the walls up and put it all back together and converted that space into a purpose-built soundstage.
Yeah.
That was that phase. And then we moved into a bunch of support area for that, bathrooms, kitchen, makeup, dressing room, shower, that all goes along with that. So like when a production comes in, they rent the space by the day, however many days they need, and they bring in their cast and crew, and all that support space just helps our productions go more smoothly. So that was kind of the next phase of construction, which was also coupled with kind of building the bones of the photo studio, which is kind of toward the back of the building. And that's the photo studio is actually what we most recently finished and kind of finished.
Yeah,
furnished,
it's a beautiful
and,
space.
Fit out and all that. So.
Yeah. Jen, who has an office here from Catalyst, she's a photographer, but she's done a really good job of what would you say, kind of decorating the space.
She's really been the interior designer.
Exactly.
On the whole space.
She's given it kind of a consistency throughout, but most recently the photo studio especially, we all just kind of go over there and just chill. So I think it's going to be a great place. Photographers are going to really enjoy it. And it's also a very simple, easy place. You got rollers for backdrops that are...
That motorized backdrop system. So you've got like different backdrops at the push of a button. There's a cyclorama in there. There's a whole client lounge with a neat vibe, a coffee bar, and a record player now, mostly recently up and running.
Yeah.
TV, you can screencast stuff to built-in Bluetooth speakers, and
I think that's one of the cool things. I think
we cut in a bunch of windows for like natural light photographers, because it was just a concrete box before. So there's natural light that comes in if you want it. That's also controllable with motorized shades that come down and things like that. So it's a pretty neat vibe. I like to just go back there and hang out. That's kind of my new place. If no one's around, that's where I like to just go sit. But.
It is. It's one of my favorite places in the studio as well. I think you see this whole consistency and this whole attention to detail and throughout the studio itself. I think you are someone who isn't just an investor looking to make money off of this place. You are someone who has been in the industry. You have worked as a gaffer. You did video production before you were a full-time gaffer. So the space in the studio itself, what people need and people want. So the studio has been tailored to that, which I think is a special thing. I don't know if you find that in other studios in Chicago.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean it might be cliche to say, but it is like it's a space built by creative professionals for creative professionals. I've been in the industry, so to speak, for 15 some years, and I know generally, I think what people in our realm are looking for, and a ton of thought went into designing it in a way that made our jobs easy.
Yeah. And I think people, when they book a podcast session, book a photo session, or book the main sound stage, they're going to be able to see that attention to detail that you've put into the place. And I've seen you for the last couple of years, just constant communication, making sure the build out is precise, and that all the needs and wants of the people that are going to be here are met. So I'm really excited to see. I actually, before I say that, I want to ask you. Number one, you've been a project manager on this, which means you've overseen the entire process. You didn't hire somebody on, to figure out how to build this. You were the one that made the decisions and told everybody what to do, which there's a lot of stress in that. And also a lot of money that you've put into it for the last 3 years. Why build something like this here in Rockford? You're outside of Chicago by a little bit. So what's the reasoning behind having City Stage Studios here?
I believe in Rockford, and I think there's a lot of great creative minds out here. And I think Rockford's a great geographic location to support something like this. I mean, we're outside one of the largest media hubs in the world, Chicago, kind of on the doorstep of Chicago, but yet we don't have all the overhead that Chicago has. I mean, simply by renting equipment in Chicago, you're paying a 9% Chicago lease tax. 9% more than you would pay anywhere else that you rent equipment in the state.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just one example, but it's just more expensive to film in the city.
Yeah.
And as it should be, because it's a big city, it's expensive to run. There's a lot of people and stuff going on. But I think the advantage that Rockford has is the ability to simplify that and make it more predictable. And you can take that same budget that you would otherwise spend in Chicago or some larger metro, or Atlanta or New York or LA.
Yeah.
Move it to Rockford and make a better product because you're not paying so much for overhead.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you're not. And also the amount of restaurants and great hotels here in Rockford is actually quite impressive. And I think
it's really become a foodie scene, I'd say, in the last decade or so. A lot of nice locally owned restaurants that are really doing some next level stuff.
Yeah.
And it's got recognition and things.
And places that you would find in Chicago. And the quality of the food is very good. And the beautiful thing is that City Stage Studios is just at the heart of it. So that's really awesome. And I think you told me something earlier before we got on that productions. Give me that number again. How much productions could save just on average by moving their project out here?
So I was referencing probably more just the general operational expenses of a business. Can across the board operate about 30% more cost effectively just by being out here than in the city or even the suburbs of the city.
Yeah, that's a crazy number.
Yeah. So that's a third of your budget.
Yeah.
And I'm confident that that would translate to production budgets as well.
Yeah. And it's not that City Stage is a cheap option. It's just that everything else makes your production go smoother. You don't have all these costs just, going up and up and up, just catering,
I'm
hotels,
a gaffer.
food.
I've worked in the stages in Chicago, and there's some nice stages out there, and I'm not dissing them whatsoever.
Yeah.
But the space we built out here is as good as or better than anything its size in Chicago. And the difference is that we're not paying for the overhead of being in the city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yet you still get the tax incentives.
Right.
And everything that you get for filming in Illinois, which is, there's some great incentives out there for that. So that's like, if you're an out-of-stater considering maybe I should move a production to Illinois. Well, yeah, it's one of the most competitive states to do that in. But you don't consider Rockford. Be outside the Chicago area and make your budget go even further.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the wheels are slowly turning on the process of making Rockford a really excellent place to film. I mean, we've been in communication for the last probably 6 months with people and just discussing ways of making it the go-to place. Just easy, simple, just if you need roads closed, if you need whatever it is for your production.
You can get from one side of the metropolitan area to the other in 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
As opposed to 4 blocks in Chicago.
But it still has that Chicago kind of vibe at the same time.
You can get
places in Rockford.
It's got a lot of different optics in a small area. You can get the urban, you can get suburban, you can get cornfields. If you want, all within a pretty small radius. So.
Yeah, and it's surprising how many people that work in Chicago who are working on top projects and top shows in Chicago actually live here in Rockford.
Sure.
So I think it's going to be a place that only keeps growing, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. So you've been in this phase of just building and pushing the studio to the final place. And do you feel like you're there now? And what's your kind of next step with the studio?
We're really winding down the end of this kind of nearly nonstop 3-year renovation project, which has been a huge weight. I mean, it's been rewarding and it's been quite an experience. But I'm really it's exciting to be at the end of that that big push for renovation and be able to shift more into supporting what we actually built the space for. Building community around it, hosting industry related events. I'm really excited about. Just had a meeting with some of the guys the other day, and I think that's going to be one of our next big pushes is just hosting the types of events that creative people want to be at, here. And that's going to be kind of a next thing that we move into. Yep.
Nice. That's great. And so just final thought, I just had a question for you. I guess this is for anybody who hasn't been following you on Instagram, hasn't seen the tremendous amount of work that this studio has taken place. This is 14,000 square feet. It was nothing but bare walls, cement, and now it's this beautiful place tailored to creative professionals. And throughout this entire process, I don't know if this is even something that you've thought about, but here, I'll throw you a curveball. What do you think?
It's a lot of anticipation building up to whatever he's about to say here.
What do you think you've learned most throughout this entire process of this 3 years?
I'm putting you on the spot. I don't know where to hit that.
But I mean, it's not just
taking
one
a lot more
thing.
time and resources than we expected. That's for sure. But it's fire codes and ADA compliance add a lot to the cost of commercial construction.
Yeah. Maybe a different question would be, did you ever think of yourself as building something as massive as this studio and undertaking a project like this? I've wanted to have a studio in Rockford for ages. Like it's been in my mind just because I've been on the other side of the coin producing, and it was a resource that's been missing. So I don't think this iteration of what it's become was really in my mind, but I'm loving it, and it's really what I think works well in Rockford. And I mean, what excites me is when I come in here on any given day and there's just creative stuff happening. Like like right now as we speak, there's a photo session in the photo studio with a bunch of people there, and it looks kind of cool. I don't know what they're shooting, but they're doing something cool there. There was, when I walked by the conference room, somebody was having a meeting in there. There's people working in the offices, and just kind of that creative energy of all these creative people who, like, we are kind of in a weird niche. Like not everyone understands like the creative mind and operating that. Because you're an entrepreneur and you're a creative person at the same time, which is not necessarily every entrepreneur. So it's kind of I feel like it's this almost community of people who understand each other. It's like you got people out there that understand the struggles you're going through, and you're not having to sit at home in your basement and deal with them all by yourself. You can talk shop with people who are in the same boat. So from like a community perspective, that's something that's been pretty cool. 100%. I think working for yourself, and if you don't have an office space, you kind of become an island, especially, if you're editing photos, if you're editing video, you become secluded in your own world, and you forget the most important part of our business, and that's connecting with people and meeting new people. And I think City Stage has kind of become this place for that to take place in Rockford. I don't know any other place I can go to and just instantly be connected to, a dozen people just in the offices who do all the, similar work that you do, or at least are entrepreneurs themselves. And I think that community is only going to be growing. And as I've observed people coming in and out of this area, it just occurred to me, everybody just kind of becomes a friend of the people here. And so that was the idea behind the podcast, City Stage and Friends. I thought we're starting, we're building this podcast booth, and why not also at the same time have an opportunity to sit down with the really cool people that are here in the office spaces, but also all the cool creatives that come in and out to rent the studio, to rent gear, and to talk about their struggles as a business owner, talk about their struggles as a creative.
That's a nice way to bring it in for a landing here. Yeah,
exactly.
Bring it back to like the
You see, that was intentional.
I feel like Kiko's probably just walked up and left at this point. Probably cut the podcast like 10 minutes ago.
But he's still there. But it occurred to me that we need to sit down and have more of a formal. I mean, these are conversations we all have here at the studio, but to have an opportunity for other people to tune in and be able to
Share
hear
the collective knowledge base.
Exactly.
Like, all these, like, it's not unique problems we're going through.
No, exactly.
Like, someone else is dealing with
They're
these things
unique
too.
to us, but then to have to hear from another person or just get advice. How do you market yourself? How do you get jobs? How do you reach out and connect to new people? That in itself is just a struggle too.
How do you network? How do you balance doing that with honing your craft? And which is more important to spend more time on? And
yeah. And just in the last 2 years that I've been here, I moved from the Minneapolis market. It's been enlightening to me, all the new people that I've met and all the really talented people that I've met, and hearing their stories, why they do what they do. And so to wrap it all up, I thought it would be really great to be able to sit down with those people, hear their stories, learn more about them, and hopefully you get something out of it. And
so that's what we can expect to see more of as the podcast moves forward. I think that's what Victor's trying to say here.
That's exactly it. So we look forward to having more conversations here at City Stage Studios. Guys, thanks so much for watching this podcast.
If you want to come on the show, dial the number on your screen.
If you want to book any of these spaces, either the photo studio, the podcast studio, or the main stage, please comment below any of the social media channels or otherwise on the website at citystagestudios.com. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. До свидания.
До свидания.
Bye-bye.